Hello. A student just left here, and I wanted to kind of share what it is that we discussed that would be of use for everybody else, so that you be able to kind of apply the same knowledge. One of the question that was raised was how to identify which table or which graph requires filtering or not. The first is to kind of look at the information that you're being asked to provide and then figure out whether that needs filtering or not. So I'm going to use table one and table two as an illustration to kind of show you what I mean. So with table one, it says two demographic information, including race against two health outcomes. Now, and then table two says two health outcomes for participants who are male, African American, and fall within the 16 to 24 age groups. So the difference between table one and table two is that table one does not specify the type of participants that it wants you to give this information for. So you are to infer out of this that this is for all your participants. All the participants in your data set are going to be the ones that you are providing this information for. With table two, it has specified the exact type of participants that it wants you to provide information for. The only way you'll be able to pull out the isolate that information for those particular participants is by using filtering, because if you don't use filtering, it's going to give you the information for everybody, which is not what you're being asked to provide. You're being asked to provide this data for a specific type of participant. In this case, participants that are male, that are African American, and have within this age groups, right? So that's how you're going to look at the rest of the tables and the figures, and figure out whether you need to filter or not. If any of it is requiring you to provide information for a specific type of participants, then you need to filter. If it's not asking you for information about specific type of participants, then you don't need to filter, right? So that's how you make that decision based on whether you're filtering or not. So that is one of the things that we looked at. Then the second thing that we looked at was for table one. Sort of, I didn't like. I just want to kind of show you an illustration because there was a confusion about how to do that. Before I go into this illustration, I will very much advise you to go back and watch the lecture video on creating pivot table, and the lecture video on creating charts, because if you go back, you'll see that we create the pivot table, and using the pivot table you create a chart and stuff like that. So please go back and review that. So I want to show you this for this. If you review the videos, you will be able to figure this out, but I still want to kind of show you guys what that is. So this is the data set that I've used illustrate. Since this, I'm going to still use that. So let's create a pivot table, and for the two health outcomes, for an example here, I'm going to use the same. I'm going to use value, and I'm going to use the A1C. So please always change this to average, because if you put it as sum, it's not really going to make a lot of sense, because average is kind of looking at everybody and saying, okay, this is what it is. Sum calculates it for everybody. It's not really showing you where the difference is between two different types of population group, or two different types of demographic information. So that's why you're using the average instead of sum. If you also noticed in your assignment, the assignment where you created the pivot table, we used average instead of sum and everything. If it's a categorical variable, you would be looking at things like counter rather than average. Average is only for numerical values. You will not be able to use average for categorical variables. Right, and so let's use gender for an example of a demographic information. Let's use, I'm trying to, okay, how often have you, okay, now, so this has this. The reason it has this error is because there's a very good likelihood that there's one of the stuff that is empty. Usually you have this error if you have a cell that is empty somewhere. So let's take that off and use another one. Okay, yeah, so this has everything in it. So it's all good. All the cells are fully all done. That's why I was telling you to make sure you don't have any empty cells, because if you have empty cells, you're going to kind of end up messing up your data. You won't be able to create something that makes sense. So this is it. Let's go back and also show you. Here I have role and gender and column. You can choose to make this, put it in both role instead of role and column, or you can choose to put them in both column. Sorry, this was meant to be column, not value. Put it in both column. I prefer, if you have two different variables that you want to put either row and column, to put it separate, one in row and one is in column, rather than put everything in the same row or in the same column. So this way, it's able to like sort out your information very well. So let's so this is what we have, and let's format the, let's go back and make it into one decimal places, to one decimal, actually I want it to be two decimal places rather than one, but you can also do one decimal place, but let's leave it at two decimal places. So this would be your table. As you can see, this makes a whole lot of sense. You'll be able to read this data and be able to like do a good data interpretation. Now let me go back and show you what this would look like if you didn't have anything in, for instance, you didn't have anything in column, and you put, all you have is in your BM, is in your values. You will not be able to make sense of this data because it really doesn't make any. It tells you that the average BMI for everybody is this and that's, but you don't know what that looks like for different demographics. Let's use, for example, if you put gender here also, you will not be able to understand this. I mean, what does 50 for gender mean? It doesn't mean anything. So you won't be able to make make sense out of it. Now let's say you have nothing in value, and what you have is in column, and let's put this in row. This is what you have. You have information in your row, information in your column, nothing in your value. This also does not make any sense. You would not be able to read this data or be able to make sense out of it. So this is not going to work. So always make sure that your values have things, and your role and your column, depending on the number of variables that you have to look at, also has things to look at. Now, let's say what you have is two. Let's take this up. What you have is two variables. You have to look at two variables, and then you can put one of it in row or column, and put the other one in value. So let's take it from row and put it in column, and you'll be able to kind of figure this out. You can see what the average A1C is for male, for females, and to be able to kind of make sense of it. So I hope this is helpful to you guys in terms of completing your assignment. So if you have any questions, any further questions, please post it on the Q&A board, so that this way when I address it, everybody gets to see it, and because it's very, very likely that you're not the only one who has questions. So when you post it on the Q&A board, I'll be able to kind of answer it, and everybody else gets to see it, so that this way, trying to get everybody to perform as well as possible. So I hope this is helpful to you, and that's that. Do have a lovely day. Bye.